What's going on, workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And today we're talking about 2017 Gaming Year in Review.
It was a long year.
It was an interesting year. All right, so Chris, we've got 5 games each that we put on this list. So
I haven't seen your list.
Yeah, I haven't seen your list. We briefly were like, well, do we want to pre-discuss it? We didn't want to be like, and we've both come up with the same 5 games, and they're perfect. And but as far as the rules go, is that there's obviously a lot of games that came out this year that are just phenomenal, but we didn't have the time or either the ability, most likely the time, to really dive in and play those. So we won't be talking about those here. I know that in the comments below, you're going to be like, you didn't say this or this. And to be fair, yeah, like there is just so many. But on that note, we'd love to know what your top 5 games are for 2017. And this can be video game, board game, whatever. But
we're not limiting it to games that have come out. It could be early access. It could be beta. It could be an expansion of a game that released years prior, or just a patch that finally brought you into something. Very broad. What has just shaped your view of gaming for 2017?
Absolutely. The other part of this video and part of this conversation is just gaming in general over 2017. There has been a lot of hardware releases this year. There's been a lot of drama. When we talk about microtransactions, EA and Star Wars come to mind. So we're going to just give, so there's going to be a context of the video games, our top 5, and gaming as it exists in 2017. Are we better off this year than we were last year? Trying to answer some of these, core questions about the year in general.
And we're going to talk about a couple of titles that, may or may not have had an impact. Our lists are focused on the games we spent our time on. So there are a lot of games that I am distinctly aware of that I haven't had time to dive into, and so I can't put them on my list, but I know they made a huge impact on the industry this year.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's dive into our top 5, and then we'll talk about gaming over 2017 as it exists today. So Chris, let's go ahead and start with you. What's your number 5?
I am going to bring the new Forza game for Xbox One X in, but a lot of it doesn't have to do with Forza. Forza was a beautiful reskin. It's got more cars, they've got beautiful tracks, wonderful conditions, but none of this is really shocking over the previous Forza game. What I really like is that they remastered it for the Xbox One X. It is absolutely stunning. I don't have a 4K TV, and it's so beautiful, so consistent. So I can only imagine the fact that it's been remastered for 4K TVs. It would be even better.
You know who has a 4K TV? The Yeti, my brother. And you're going to be there on Saturday.
And he also has the new Forza
game. And he has the new Forza game. And he has an Xbox One X.
It has been absolutely stunning. I just have to bring it in as my number 5 because it's just reminded me. Sometimes I think we lose track of the replayability of games, the actual mechanics of games, and so we start to focus just on beauty, and so games kind of suffer.
They do.
But there is,
absolutely.
Every once in a while, a game is just so beautiful, I have to just sit back and say, okay, that is so far above, like, going back to, like, Cruisin' USA on the Nintendo 64. Like, it has just come so far.
Oh, man.
It is just astounding.
I remember playing Cruisin' in the arcades, man. And
I played it recently in the arcades.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they have these new arcades where they're like arcade/bars. And I went into one, and we were drinking and driving.
Don't really do that at home.
Only in arcades where that's a good idea. So
that's really cool. All right, so my number 5 is going to be the Stormblood expansion.
Okay.
There's been a lot of really great games, and I'm going to be doing a, I guess Final Fantasy 14 Year in Review 2017 edition.
Okay.
Been doing that. We've only been around for a year now. I did that last year for 2016. I'm going to do that for this year. So there's been a lot of positives I think Stormblood brought in. I've played, like when you look at the hours played, Stormblood is my number 1 in terms of time spent in a game.
Oh, yeah.
But there's definitely some issues that I find with the game itself. There's things that I want to see. And obviously, as we've gone in through 4.1 and as we move to 4.2, I'm looking forward to being more actively engaged back in the rating scene and things like that with 4.2. But yes. Stormblood delivered on the PvP changes that I was hoping. There's still work. I mean, again, that's anything with an MMO and a persistent game. There's always work to be done. And but still, I think it deserves to be on my list because I am such a fan of the Final Fantasy series. Honorable mention: I really wanted to put Final Fantasy 15 on this list, but it just couldn't belong due to the recent updates that they've made itself. But
I think it's my honorable mention too, only because I think it has such potential.
Yeah.
I don't want to put it on here because I think it's still missing
broken.
a lot of things,
It's
and I don't
broken
want
at its core.
I don't want my list to say
Yeah.
that these are all games I would stand behind people purchasing. And 15, I'm like, I stand behind my purchase. I am not ready to say anybody else should buy it.
And it's so weird because, like, just on that note though, is that there is this great single player campaign that they fixed things in the end, like over the course of the year. That's like they've kind of addressed issues. So like it's partially there. It's like I would recommend this piece. I would hold off on this piece, and so it can't really make the list. But Stormblood in and of itself, like, back to my number 5, delivered on the new jobs. I thought were really well done. I'm really excited about them. Hindsight being, there's definitely things that they make this big beautiful world, and then you don't really spend any time in it because there's no reason to. And that's something we've talked about on the channel here. That's something that I think even Yoshi P in a recent interview talked about. And so, I wish it was something that like
That's where the new housing word should go out in the world.
Just live out in the world.
I just want like a free floating house.
This is my house. Just I'm in this one zone. That would help. And anyway, so that's my number 5, the Stormblood Final Fantasy 14 expansion.
All right, so my number 4 is going to be probably my most controversial one on the list. I'm going to put the new Call of Duty game on.
Ooh.
As
What's the sigh?
So
I'm going to put Call of Duty as number 4.
Call of Duty for years has been reskinning games and dropping them as the same content. And as the kill streaks got more and more out of hand, we eventually just quit in college. And we always wanted to come back when they would distill it back to its roots, when they would just take the Call of Duty I played in college and just re-release it with new graphics and some new maps. And all the new technologies where, like, now with sound, you can hear, like, how far away somebody is. So you have to be careful when you're sprinting and, like, take advantage of the new hardware, take advantage of the new, but otherwise, just drop it back to its basics. And so I just want to say thank you, Call of Duty, for doing that. That's all I wanted. So people who are like, well, this is just like the basic Call of Duty game. Thank you. That is all I was asking for. I didn't need all this complexity layered on top. It's had its missteps, but I am having a blast with it on game night. It's everything I want it to be in custom games. It has, like, AI that you can drop in, like Perfect Dark back in the day. You can set it all the way up to that difficulty.
I've always wondered why Halo hasn't done that as well, because it's
awesome.
That, imagine it either as a backfill, but for people who aren't like comfortable with multiplayer and playing people online, AI bots. I love that back in Perfect Dark days. I love that, and it's just to add in that extra.
It helps us offset, like, if we don't have enough people to fill a map, but we've crossed the point where we can play in public games, we can put like 2 on one team, 1 on another, and then we can kind of backfill. And we tried setting them all the way up to the maximum difficulty last night, and that's above the median player level in ours. So they were actually competing with the top players in our group, and so to everybody else, they just felt like they were getting killed. And they have these really basic names, and so they were like, well, Harry and Orange are just destroying me. So they have like little one-word nouns and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. I think a lot of it has to do with how it fits our game night group, and it's exactly what we were looking for. There were some other games I was hoping would be our game night game this year, and it's nice that Call of Duty stepped up.
All right. My number 4, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for the Nintendo Switch. Every time I play that game, it just expands into just like, oh, I can do this. It is so, like, there's like complexity upon complexity upon complexity, but they introduce it to you in just a simple thing, like, oh, you can raise the development level of these towns. Interesting. Oh, if you do that, how do you do that? You sell them items, you buy items from them, you participate in the market. It grows the economy of the town. Oh, and then that opens up all these other things. You can, it's just like boom, 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 and I'm like. And then they have like this. I was just in this one area, and there's like a level 90 monster boss guy running around at random, and I'm like, I need to make sure I'm pathing him because he will destroy me. I'm a measly level like 15. Woo, it's like, it was just awesome to see that. Like, it felt like these worlds, these titans and stuff are alive, and from an RPG perspective, it is truly something that I wish I've been able to sink more time into. I've actually done several Let's Plays of these, but I was concerned because it is Nintendo. That kind of ties into a general theme about Nintendo and YouTube. And I was like, are we gonna get slapped? Are we gonna, get hurt for posting this video? And I tried to register it with the Nintendo Creator Program, and they said, no, not our content. And I'm like, does that mean I can still post it? Like,
so is it nobody's content?
Yeah, it's like,
it's enough theirs that they don't want you to share it, but not enough theirs that they will claim.
Yeah,
it.
Exactly.
It is in no man's land.
So I intend to continue to play more. Right now, it came out January 1st. It's kind of like one of those games that just came out at the end of the year, and I'm in love with it, and I'm just so happy with the game itself and the story. I have some issues with it that I've debated on making videos about it. Namely, just some of the female characters are just like I wouldn't want my daughter playing this and be like, no, don't wear this in public, please. It just, but anyway, outside of that, the gameplay, the story, I am loving every minute of it, and then it brings in a greater conversation with, especially you guys who support us over on Patreon and Twitch, who are part of the Discord. So on Discord, we've been chatting about it, and a lot of the conversation comes up that we hope that the other Xenoblade X, all these Xenoblade games that were kind of orphaned on the Wii U, even. That we hopefully will see those brought into the Switch library as well, because they are also
that whole library could migrate and it would be new to the majority.
It would
of the
be new.
population.
The Switch is almost completely outsold the Wii U, so literally you could migrate it.
And I had a Wii U and not many games because there was nobody to play with, so it would be new to me, and I had a Wii U.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing is on this list we didn't allow hardware, and VR's made a lot of pushes this year. Phones have changed a lot this year. The Xbox One X has changed a lot this year. But all of those are massively shadowed by the impact that Nintendo Switch has had.
Yeah.
So that's been impressive.
And what's impressive, and we'll do a video on this actually, after this, and you can look forward to seeing that probably tomorrow, is the, kind of our lookout into 2018. And that's really something exciting that we're very excited about as well. So go ahead. I think you got number 3.
My number 3 is actually, this is where I'm going to put Final Fantasy. And I have taken the winter off. I have taken, basically, once I cleared 4.1, I've been taking a break till 4.2.
It's a healthy habit to take breaks.
Because of how much I was enjoying it at launch. And that I was actually starting to feel overwhelmed. This doesn't make sense, but for every hour I would put in, I would feel like, oh no, there's 2 more hours worth of stuff I have to do. And so it was getting to the point where I almost had this anxiety about the game, where if I played 10 hours, I was just like, I suck. There's now 30 hours, 40 hours worth of stuff that I haven't done.
Yeah.
So it was just, I'm unbelievably impressed with their ability to reinvent the dungeon. They actually, I remember playing through and just being surprised, and then actively wanting to be there when friends of mine ran it for the first time. So when I ran Brave Flock's Long Stop, I wanted to be there when you ran it for the first time, just so I could hear you. And I was like, we have to be in voice chat. And you're like, oh, is it complex? And I'm like, yeah, let's go with complex.
I think you're thinking of Bardham's Metal. Brave Flocks is a dungeon. Yes, absolutely.
Sorry.
You're good.
Bardham's Metal.
It's the name.
It's the name. I guess, in my head. I'm picturing it.
Yeah.
The menagerie shenanigans.
It's the Mario Party dungeon, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Because you beat me to the dungeon, and then you're like,
which is
hey,
weird.
Brian, you there?
Which is weird. He's the Final Fantasy player out of the two of us, and I was just like, he's like, how much did you play yesterday? I'm like, I don't know. How long's the server been up? Because I haven't stopped yet. So that is my strong number 3. I cannot wait to see where 4.2 go. I look forward to diving back in. I still have a lot to do as far as capping crafters, capping gatherers. I want to cap Red Mage. I still haven't done it.
Well, and it's important to know, and it's also an important part of the conversation, is you got to take breaks, everybody. A lot of people will play through burnout, and then it's essentially, you're just hurting yourself in your enjoyment of the game. It's okay, and that's the game's designed that way, to take a break, but you do need to log in and get your bear mount for the Starlight Celebration. It is phenomenal. Okay. It is a beautiful mount, and it has a little...
He texted that to me last night.
I was like, dude, don't forget. Do not forget. Get your Starlight mount.
Haven't had a chance to log on yet. But,
it takes about 5 minutes. You'll get your bear, and you'll be happy for the rest of your life.
rest of my life.
Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Except every time I log out and I realize I can't have that bear mount in real life.
You're like, come with me. That's what VR is supposed to do, right? Or AR. Anyway. All right. So my number 3, Zelda Breath of the Wild. It falls
just
here.
Pissed a lot of critics off.
Well, a lot of people rate it as their game of the year.
Oh.
And I respect it. I love every moment I've spent with Zelda. And with any open world game that I've ever played, I always get lost in the world and I don't follow the main story, and that's exactly where I fell with Zelda. I have not beaten the main story. I just find myself running around, having a great time, and then just doing, like, finding shrines, doing this, doing this.
The worst is when you die in the open world a couple of times, and you've been playing for 2 hours, and you log off and you realize, I have less food, I broke some weapons, I have literally gone backwards and still had fun.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, but that's why it falls there for me. Is that it is this beautiful sandbox that I am so impressed by it. But just like with every open world game, I struggle with completion, and it ends up. My fear is that it's going to end up falling under my pile of shame. A game that I have and I've never beaten, and I don't want that for this game. But that's why it falls on the list for my number 3, which isn't an insult. Like it's. There's a ton of great games this year.
Yeah, I think we might need some solitary confinement with the Nintendo Switch. I think they just need to lock us in there until we beat all the games we say we like.
I literally just need to also find that kind of time.
We'll take care of your family and your bills.
Yes!
You are locked in this box until you've beaten all these games. That's the dream.
All right, I'll go in. I'll come out a happier man. Go ahead.
So I'm going to put Warhammer.
40K?
40K. Because 8th edition and the way they've been releasing chapter approved and the new codexes has brought a lot of joy into the game, and it's made the game really approachable to play. People who I didn't think friends of mine who I didn't think would ever make the jump have been jumping in and playing with us. And it has been so much fun. It is so approachable now, and it's a game that came out, it's been out like 30 years. And they've done nothing but make it more complex and more complex and more complex. And so it gotten to the point that you had to be ready to dive in and basically have this textbook that you had to memorize, and they reset all of that. So I really appreciate that there's something outside of video games that can have the same amount of like fun and like make your brain spin, and those are all things that I enjoy because it's actually nice to get away from some screen time.
Yeah.
And that's been a big distractor from, playing 14 and stuff lately, is that I've been building new things for my army.
Yeah.
And so that it's nice to like look up and it's like, wow, I haven't played video games in 3 days. And that's a weird feeling.
Yeah, my video game playing time is really kind of regulated to Monday and Tuesday. And this last week has been real tough because I've been in crunch mode. I've been working on this list for a client who kind of came up and said, "Hey, we need these like 12 things done ASAP," and which is great from a business perspective because that means I get paid, and that makes everybody happy that lives with me because it's like, yes, Christmas is on, but I haven't had any time. I've Monday, Tuesday just worked. I think I've worked about 10 to 12 hour days all this week, and so I'm kind of like. Really, after you haven't played in a while, you start to get that like, gosh, I just want to log in, whether it's 14, whether it's Xenoblade, whether it's PUBG, whether it's whatever. I just want to play a game. I just want to kick back and kind of just relax, etc. So that is
I've been enjoying Let's Plays during that time. So when I've been knocking out some things for work lately, I've had to kind of churn through some spreadsheets and things like that, and it's really monotonous work, but it just has to get done.
Yeah.
And I've been actually enjoying Let's Plays of like farming simulators because it's like soothing. Like they're just like talking.
Welcome here.
And
we're gonna grow some corn.
And you don't miss anything. So if you like really get into like this number, this math doesn't make sense. So you kind of mute it, but you don't pause it, and you're working through everything. And you're like, okay, that checks out. Then I like turn it back on. It's like, oh well, he's still harvesting wheat.
Yeah,
he's exactly where I left him.
Well, that's the thing.
We got a new tractor.
That's the thing I think we found. I think that's the thing we found and really enjoyed and were surprised about with streaming. So obviously we started a lot more streaming with Stormblood, and you were just like you leveled your Fisher to 70. And you were just, and you had a great turnout and it was really relaxing.
I wasn't leveling it the most optimal way necessarily. There were a couple levels where I went ahead and did leaves and the more optimal ways, but most of it was just hard casting. Mm-hmm. Most of it was, I'm just going to pick a fishing hole that I haven't been to yet, and we're just going to fish there together for 2 hours.
But it's like the conversation, like it allows itself to be that relaxing, that, you know, so people at work are like, you know, in this intense moment that you really like, I don't need to watch you fish, but we're just having that conversation.
And I found that farming simulators are kind of that same
It's
thing.
your fishing.
It's not a game I own or played, so I couldn't put it on my list, but I appreciate the impact on my life it's had in 2017.
Well, Warhammer, you know, so jumping back, I guess, to your number 2, Warhammer 40K, that's really exciting to see. It's been fun for me to watch, you know, like, because you've been putting out your videos.
It's almost got my whole D&D group on it.
That's awesome.
We're just missing one guy.
Yeah.
So
great.
Looking forward to that.
Maybe we'll get a let's play out of you on that some point.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
All right, my number 2, Cuphead. This game has been something that's been on my radar for a long time. Julie, like, it came out at a time where it was like, I just don't, you know, am I going to have time to play it? And I'm like, well, let's see how the reviews, you know, come down. And Julie's like, no, I'm in. She's like, she's been waiting. I woke up and she's like, I downloaded it. I played it. It's awesome. You need to come play with me. And so the couch co-op for this game is phenomenal. The difficulty is just spot on perfect. It's difficult to the point where you're having fun and you want to keep going, and it's easy and quick to get back into the fight. Like, there's not like a loading. It's like, nope. It shows you how far on your progress, how many phases you got to on the boss, and then once you've we're so close, we almost made it to the end, and then you want to just keep going, and then sometimes you get worse, and then you're like, I'm getting worse, and then all of a sudden you have that one round that you're just like, you know, you're just spot on, and it's so satisfying. I'm really impressed. And the visual art style, I hope we see more from this studio in the future. I'm really happy. I think Xbox, Microsoft, outside, like you mentioned, you know, the Xbox One X earlier, but like their year has been, I think, pretty awful. Like, if you think about it, like, in retrospect, like there hasn't been any like Xbox game that I had to have, but Cuphead being one of them. And the nice thing is it's play anywhere, so
I think it's just a shift. I think the market got flooded with a lot of poor titles. But overall, as the year, I think our quality as an industry still stayed very high because you had a few all-stars, you know, like the Nintendo Switch and stuff, really just carry the year for everybody else, in my opinion. But that's a little more for after. So let me finish with my game of the year is Zelda. Because it actually, in my opinion, is better than Ocarina of Time, which almost feels blasphemous to say, but that's been my number 1 for so long that
it has been.
You know? Yeah. And so it was really, I had to put it there because it's a game that I could play for months. I had a couple of job opportunities when I shifted industries over the last couple months.
Yeah, we both had both job career changes this year too.
Part of me, like, Zelda's so good that part of me has a little bit of like, maybe I should have taken that job that had more travel. And that's a weird way to feel. It's just like, no, professionally and what I wanted to do with my career, I'm glad with the choice I made. But the amount of travel would have really justified a lot more Nintendo Switch time. So have
you cleared it yet though?
I have not.
You need to.
I have not. I'm almost done. Yeah, I'm almost done.
You should stream some of it at this point. At this point, I don't think it will ruin anything for anybody.
I am almost done. So, and then my buddy's actually playing it back through on like the more difficult mode.
Well, they just also released some DLC, etc. Like, it's like, I think Zelda is going to be in the conversation.
And that's why I put it here, is because I don't think it's going anywhere. I think I'll pick it right back up and I'll clear it. And then I'll want to play it again on the more difficult mode. And then I'll want to add the DLC. And then, so it's a game that, like Ocarina of Time, it took me a year or something like that to beat it the first time as a kid because I didn't want to get any guides and I got stuck on like the same 2 bosses. But then I went back and I beat it again, and the next time it took me a month. And then the next time, and I beat that game a dozen times. And so this is a game that, as long as the Switch is still a relevant console, I think, or that the games carry over to the next Switch, the Switch 2 or whatever that is, that I'll continue to keep, you know, whatever game or two I'm playing and Zelda with me at all times whenever I take it out of the house. So, honestly, at this point, we've just been rambling on, and we have another aspect of this topic we want to get to. So, what is your number 1? I really thought it would be Zelda.
Super Mario Odyssey. That game is incredible. And it didn't win the Game of the Year awards, but I give it my Game of the Year, 2017. I love this game. I can't put it down. I play it like almost every day, if only for a couple minutes.
Can't see his hands because he's playing it right now.
It's like the Switch is actually behind me. But the Brian, like that was the worst video you've ever made. You were completely distracted. Woohoo! Woohoo! Anyway, but it's like I feel like I can jump in, grab a couple moons. I have a great time. It's the exploration piece of it. Like I feel like it's a little bit more guided. The levels design, the music is incredible. Bravo, Nintendo. Thank you for this. The only thing that I want more than this game is I want a 2D Super Mario game on the Switch so that I can play with Maddie. Maddie plays the game, but she's not that great. But she's only 3.5, so it's like there is this.
And I think Maddie's game of the year is honestly going to be Mario Kart.
Oh yeah,
which
Mario Kart for Maddie, absolutely.
Which she calls
Mario and the Racers.
Mario and the Racers, which is honestly the greatest. That should be like a DLC patch name.
Mario and the Racers. Yeah, it's a great band name. You know,
it is. It is.
But so Mario takes it. Maddie definitely loves Mario and the Racers, but I would love a 2D Mario. That'd be what I want on the Nintendo Switch. Hopefully here in 2018, but. Okay, so we talked about our top 5 games, and I think that's a really good list. I think the only cross one that we had was Zelda. Your number 1, my number 3, and
Stormblood.
And Stormblood, yes, thank you. And it was great to see where those position themselves. But overall, the industry as a whole in 2017, I think you said it earlier, has gotten better, but there's definitely been some issues in the road this year. And and I speak to what I've been calling microtransaction gate. EA, Bungie, like those are 2 big classic examples that really finished the year off. But those have been, and people pointed out, those have been in like the game and in the world for a long time. I just think that it just reached this boiling point this year, and everybody just was kind of like, no, enough. Like this is beyond unacceptable.
And it's not new. No. It's been in FIFA games for a long time. It's been in. I mean, it's not. It's just. It was new to certain players because they were in games that those players weren't playing.
Well, it brings into the fact that the gaming community as a whole is very large, and it has very deep and different styles of gamers, right? Like you mentioned
Absolutely.
FIFA, you mentioned
Absolutely.
like, they buy the annual games and they, they enjoy them, etc. Like we know one, we have a mutual friend, Ben, he plays FIFA every year. And that's his game. That's what he really enjoys.
And I have a friend that buys the NBA games.
Yeah.
And I have a friend that buys the football games. And those 3 friends don't play together.
No.
And that blows my mind because if I meet a friend that plays RPGs, we will most assuredly find an RPG we can play together.
Yeah.
So the sports franchise games just seem to really kind of build their own niche. Not to say those players can't branch out, but... and you might be one of those players that plays multiple games, but there does seem to be different segments of the gaming population. And if you go to look at Reddit, sometimes those segments are even battling with each other, which makes no sense to me.
I don't get that. I mean, I understand where people come from in the sense of me versus you, but in the PvP and competitive environments. But at the end of the day, and that's one of the things that we really try to do here at this channel is that we are a fan of video games. We love talking about video games. I'll talk with video games to anybody, for like until like my throat is sore and I can't talk anymore because that's just how much I love video games. And it doesn't matter whether you like a certain type of game or don't. I'm always interested in what people like. And I think as a whole, like when I look at the industry in and of itself, like that moment was just like this. Almost this crashing of worlds. Like I think that for what people would consider hardcore gamers or core gamers, different terms for the ones that don't just play the annual sports games, is that the sports game world, all that every message that was sent to these big companies was this is a good mobile sports, like this is working, this is great, this is making us real profitable, yay. And then I think gamers. The core, essentially what we'll use the term here, in this video to define them is that they just either had enough or it just became like this, like, wait a minute moment. And that, I think, makes, in my mind, puts a dark spot on 2017.
It does. It highlights the fact that we don't have an easy way to converse, right? That the way we interact, and it's been said in a lot of the comment sections here and elsewhere, is very binary, right? It's money. It's I either bought the game or I didn't. I can't pay less for the game. I can't tip them. Mm-hmm. So it's one amount of money and I'm either buying it or not. So from our end, we're like, well, we're begrudgingly buying these games, and I just want them to know, like, I don't want to buy this, but I'm going to buy it anyway. But in their boardrooms and in their development rooms, they're like, wow, guys, we set another sales record. Like, they're loving what we're doing. More loot boxes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And eventually they crossed a point where we said, no, I'm not doing it.
Honestly, I think they're like, what happened? Like, I would just, if you're not
hit them out of left field.
If you're not ingrained, I think you could almost see the writing on the wall with this, but if you're not ingrained in the community and the conversation, you're caught off guard if you're the CEO and everything like that. And not to say that excuses them in this attitude.
And the communities have gotten really big.
Yeah.
So I don't think, like, one of the comments we get that we really appreciate is that people like how much we interact with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But there's 10,000 of you. And most of you aren't going to comment on every video. Most of you don't watch every video. You watch the ones that fit you. So when you talk about a game that sells multiple million copies on opening weekend, how do you interact with that? How do you separate out some people are just going to troll. How do you separate out the valid comments? And you can't just give people exactly what they want,
right?
Because they don't necessarily know what they want. If part of a game's ability to succeed is that it can delight and surprise us. So how do you get ahead of that? How do you listen for only the valid comments that are good ideas that will work?
You try. I think it's a matter, and I think people recognize that effort and respect it. I think that when you look at certain companies, they do a better job of it. Certain companies don't, and that leads into So we talked about the microtransaction gate being a big blind spot, a big, I guess, negative spot. Mm-hmm. But then going right into that to a company that I feel doesn't do a good job at least that communication, in my opinion, is Nintendo. But then at the end of the day, I would say, like, both of our we had 2 games of the year that were Nintendo games.
So maybe they are listening.
And maybe they
just don't communicate.
Well, I don't know. And then you still have like the Nintendo Directs and things like that. So the question is what's the right way to go about it? And this is a question for you guys in the community: is Nintendo doing a satisfactory job in communicating to us? I think this year, I think actions speak louder than words in all cases. And so when I've seen from Nintendo this year, and I would say Nintendo is I wouldn't have expected I would be ending this year with a thank you to Nintendo.
Especially given their relationship with YouTube.
Especially and that's a kind of key thing. It's like, I feel like there's these, like, I have to jump through these weird hoops. I'm always kind of worried because am I going to hurt the channel? Like, I love video games. Like I said, I'll talk about any video game with anybody. So I talk about Nintendo.
Strikes are very serious.
Yeah, YouTube,
and this is like, a big part of our hobby time is put into this channel, and so Nintendo is the most likely way we would lose this channel.
I know. But then it's like, then they come out and they deliver every month a game that if I'm not super interested in it, it's a quality title. Yeah. And they communicate that with Nintendo Directs. And I just kind of felt like I was like, oh, I'm going to get this game in October. I'm going to get this game in November. I'm going to get this game in December. Wow. Like, I couldn't remember. I remember a time where it was like, I get one Nintendo game a year and then the system would gather dust. Right now, I'm sitting here going, is there a way that I can convince Chris that a second Switch is a business type expense for the channel so that I can play more Switch because I'm fighting Maddie and Julie for the Switch in and of itself. And there's no real way to do it. I just need to save up the money. I just need to be an adult and save my money. Screw my foundation repair payments.
And it would be easy to forget about other titles altogether. There's plenty of Switch titles. I didn't get to pick up Splatoon, and I heard nothing but good things.
And I continue to hear nothing but good things. Maybe Splatoon, if they keep doing it, maybe that's a game we pick up in 2018. And that, I think, is as a testament to a good game. It's like you look at some of these games that are still in the number one.
Right.
They continue to update.
Like, I picked up RimWorld this year,
yeah,
and it was phenomenal, and it's not new.
Well, that's great. Like, you want to see these long lives, and I think digital distribution, like if we were talking again in the context of our year in review, digital distribution has gotten only better. Nintendo has stepped up their game. I download my games. I think it's so much easier than any previous digital download that I've gotten from Nintendo in the past. Xbox in and of itself, like they've made it so much easier. They continue to evolve that space. I feel vindicated in just digital, especially like in the Xbox front, because of Play Anywhere, because of these things that allows me to say, like, I got the, like, Chris was asking is like because I was playing PUBG with Julie, and PUBG in and of itself is probably a topic for another, its own video itself.
It's a great game.
Absolutely,
Still in early access.
Yeah, but Julie and I were playing it, and Chris were like, "Do you need 2 copies?" I go, "No," because the way that Xbox has architected its online policy, it's licensed on the Xbox in the living room, and because I'm logged in here, it's licensed on my Xbox One X. So Julie, with 1 copy, can play the same game. And that's a same thing with all of our games. I only need to buy 1 copy because of how we've set up the system in and of itself.
Couch co-op. If you just purchase 1 additional Xbox.
Exactly. Yes, that's awesome. Brilliant. Yes, you just need
one
multiple
minor little detail there.
Just a little more expense.
Which is a side benefit of upgrading to the X. Neither of us traded in our original Xboxes. Mine moved to the living room, yours moved to the living room, and that's been really neat. I've been downloading free games over the last year, my free games for gold. I've been downloading them more regularly, especially paying attention for ones that I know my wife would like to play. She's huge on like the Lego series, like Lego Batman, Lego. She just is big on that. So trying to download those for her, so that now that that's in the living room, she can play on that. So I am loving the Xbox One X. It just doesn't hold a candle to the Switch. And that's not the Xbox's fault. It wasn't meant to be a new gen. It's meant to be an upgrade.
Well, that's in and of itself, and I've said it, and I'm going to keep saying it. I find that with Xbox, I'm in a weird spot. I'm a fan of Xbox. I'm a fan of Xbox Live, but I'm also a fan of JRPGs, and those two don't mix well right now. And that's where the Switch in and of itself has become this real highlight. Now, the question is, because we haven't talked a lot about PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 4 sales-wise is phenomenal. I love my PS4. Julie plays 14 on that. That's how I play on PC. She plays on PS4.
I play 14 on it.
Yeah, you play 14 on PS4. I don't play a lot of other games on my PlayStation. It ends up being just that Final Fantasy 14 box. And that's not saying that the system is bad in and of itself. It's just more I play where my friends are, and we're all on Xbox. For that matter. But the point I'm trying to bring up is that before, because I knew that it wasn't going to come to Xbox, like, that looks like a great JRPG.
But that has a lot more to do with Xbox Live, right?
Oh,
Xbox Live, and if you like the PlayStation platform today, that's fine, but Xbox Live has been the bar for a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not new. And so...
PS4's network got upgraded to the Xbox 360 level. Xbox One's online infrastructure network is just the best when it comes to these things.
And that's been my issue is we've never as a group moved to PlayStation, so I haven't bought a lot of games for it. So I play exclusives on it.
Yeah, and so that all brings back to my point.
I like my PlayStation, but if Final Fantasy moved to the 360 to the X, to the X,
you play on an X.
And I could use my mouse and keyboard with it,
you're there.
I would save myself the cost of another PlayStation.
Absolutely. The thing is that I'm finding is that I'm seeing a lot of games that I would have gotten on the PS4 that are also now coming to the Switch. Some that are still rumored, but I'm pretty sure are going to be confirmed. And now I go, I think I'm going to get that on Switch, because of the portability, etc. And so I honestly think ending this year, for me personally, I'm disappointed in Microsoft from a content perspective, from a hardware perspective. Thank you. I'm playing and enjoying my older games. I just don't think that they delivered games content-wise at all. Like, I mean, it's to the point where, like, if I was going to give them a grade, I'd give them a D. The highlight for me was PUBG, and that's early access, and that game's still broken, but it's such a good game that it goes beyond the errors.
It's live on PC as of this recording.
Yeah,
by a day.
But then I look at it, I go, Sony, man, they've got the exclusives, but then they're also coming to PC, and I think that for me means PC master race all the way. But now, whenever it comes to the choice between PC, PS4, and Switch, I'm leaning Switch for its port, because I can't pick up my PC and take it wherever I want, but I can pick up my Switch. And I can take that wherever I want. And I don't need the highest fidelity experience, especially for some of these games.
And I think game developers have taken all this additional hardware, and they have changed the way we play games. We've seen games that have utterly changed the way we look at things. Zelda changed the way we looked at open world content. It actually, in my mind, realized what a lot of people had been imagining as open world content. I think that, you're starting to see MMOs shift. You're starting to see the definition of an MMO shift.
And so a lot of game developers seem to be shifting, and the publishers are lagging behind. So publishers had a rough year, and I think most of our negativity with 2017 was publishers' fault. That publishers are too big of boats; they're too slow to steer.
That's a good point.
Sony struggled with No Man's Sky. They made a mistake. They backed a small developer. They intended for it to remain that way. It got seen as a AAA title. It got marketed kind of like a AAA title.
They kind of leaned into it,
and they did. They leaned into the turn, and they got slammed for it. And EA got slammed for Battlefront. And people talk about what if the relationship between that IP and EA ceased to exist. I mean, EA, what makes EA powerful is that they own exclusive rights to so much intellectual property that they didn't come out with. It's different than Nintendo. Nintendo invented it.
Yeah.
EA buys it.
Yeah. And then they, like when it comes to the, like even sports games, like I love that there used to be 2K and Madden that you can kind of pick between. And that I think brought in more innovation, and it brought in, a better detail quality. We've lost that. And then we lost that years ago. Oh, of course not.
They want to be the only thing. And Activision over the years has just shifted more and more corporate, and now that it's just merger after merger after merger, and so you end up at this point where Activision seems to have lost its way as well. And so when you say, okay, Take-Two was coming out and they were saying some kind of dick remarks, we promise that we will never again release a title without microtransactions. And then you have Activision and EA slipping, and then you have Sony slipping, and then you have Microsoft slipping. That's what, in my mind, led to any negativity this year. I think games themselves and gamers themselves had a wonderful year.
Yeah,
just a big shout.
I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun this year. I think MMOs, like when we praised praised 14, and then WoW has another expansion coming out next year. But you're not hearing too much about new MMOs, and I'm wondering if that's going to change at some point in the future. But that's a bigger conversation.
Elite Dangerous is doing interesting things.
Is that an MMO?
It's a free to play, so
okay.
Kind of. It's got expansions to it.
Yeah.
Another conversation.
Another conversation for another day. So 2017 year in review. I think I'm really happy to see the gamers said no. That's important. The question is that will that impact sales? Will that message be felt long term? Will we stick with it, or is it all of a sudden comes out and then the next we forget? And that's the thing. Like
they make a couple apologies, they say sorry, we get mad about something else, we all move on.
Yeah. So that will be a long term to see if we have that. I think going into I think the big winner this year was Nintendo. They really were the comeback story, which is great. I said, I wanted the Switch to be a system that brought me back into the Nintendo universe because I was out of it. But they had to hit some keynotes. They haven't hit all of them. I think Nintendo Online is still a big issue. I think the fact that you need a phone app, that's stupid. I'm just going to, at the end of the day...
Mario Party, Smash Brothers, there's still a lot of missing in action.
Right, but that also means that look at the next year.
So either they've let us down and not hit all our points, or we are just beginning to see the impact the Switch will make.
Yeah.
One of the two.
And then hardware-wise, the Xbox X did exactly what they said it was going to do. To the penny. It's worth every cent that we bought it, paid for it. The system is fast, and that's exactly what I wanted it to be. It really brings it up on par with what I felt the PlayStation UI was. PlayStation
shocks me.
Yeah, just boom, 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 boom. PlayStation in and of itself, just sales-wise, is the dominant force. Most people, have those systems. That's awesome. I think content-wise, PlayStation definitely took the cake when you look at PlayStation versus Xbox. But then on that note, I don't know what Xbox is doing right now, and I think that internally they've got to get 2018 figured out because they can't do another 2017. It's going to be hard to be a fan of Xbox when, they've come out with a hardware that means third-party games are going to definitely run better. But at the end of the day, they're not also having all the third-party games. Like I said, there's a ton of games that essentially the options they're giving me are PC, Switch, and PS4. Why is Xbox not in that list? It doesn't make any sense. Why is Xbox not have Final Fantasy 14? This doesn't make any sense. We're about to come up into 2018. I don't know what they're doing. Hardware-wise, thank you. Software-wise, come on.
Get it done.
Get it done. let's do this thing. Let's get into 2018 and have a heck of a better year than this year ever could be. Any final thoughts on your wrap up for 2017?
I think 2017 was overall very positive. Looking back, surprisingly positive. It feels more negative
At the end,
and then when I really look back, I'm like, what am I complaining about? We had a lot of good times this year, and a lot of the things that happened this year are solid launching platforms for next year, right? Mm-hmm. So I got 2 new consoles this year.
Yeah.
So that, even if that doesn't single-handedly carry this year, that's what gives next year this ability to just be incredible. Mm-hmm. So I'm really happy with aspects of the industry. There's a lot of winds of change, so I could look back at this video later and be like, well, I was wrong. But it feels like things are headed in a positive direction, and that's what I'm going to hope for.
All right. Guys, let us know, what are your top 5 video games for 2017? What are your highlights and lowlights for the gaming as it exists right now? This has been Work to Game, and I'm Brian.
I'm Chris.
Thanks so much for watching this video. We hope to see you in our next, but until then, we hope you have a fantastic week.
Take care.
Hey, everybody. Brian and Chuck here for Work to Game. Chuck wants to tell you that you should totally subscribe to the channel. And that you should totally hit that like button. Oh, and then we also got t-shirts on sale for some reason. That's a little bit mean, Chuck. I'm not crazy.